Okay, it's going to be a very tricky day because yesterday one of you also raised the element. We have a lot of more importance coming up, and one of them is governance. We haven't discussed about it because governance is the topic that we will cover today, project governance. And we will go through that by presenting to you the PM² governance model. Like I've said the first day, it is the only methodology that has such an elaborated governance model. It does not just provide generic description of a couple of roles and that's it, and then you do it internally in your organization. Here, we will discuss about all the roles. We will discuss about all the responsibilities that each role can assume and how these are linked to the various processes and activities. You're split in two. I have the guys coming from the missions, and these guys deliver for beneficiaries. So for you, I will have to tailor the model more. And I have the other guys, the other half, that undertake normal projects internally in their organization. Let me share the first approach, the second, which is the easiest one, and then I will go back to you, the guys from the missions. So let's go through the steps from a story. You are within your organization. You're the head of the HR department, HR division. Okay? And you identify that the infrastructure that you have in place for HR management is not sufficient enough for you to cover your needs, your internal needs within your organization. So what do? You call the smart guy from within your division, the guy who's fully aware of the processes, the tools that you use. You put on his head the hat of the business manager, and you call that guy business manager. My dear friends, this is the situation here. I am the project owner talking right now. I am the head of the HR department. I am the one that feels the pain. So I have the hat of the project owner on my head. And I ask you that I appoint you right now to be the business manager, to go and investigate in more detail what the situation is. Don't spend too much time, huh? Put that down on a project initiation request and see a clear picture of the situation. So the business manager will go and will draft the project initiation request. The context, the legal framework, the outcomes, the success criteria. He will talk about assumptions, constraints, and risks. He will put that down. So now we have a concise picture of the situation. He will take that and he will present it to the project owner, to his boss. The boss will say, looking into that, it appears that we indeed have a problem. So I was right. So here's what you're going to do now, my dear business manager. You will go back and I want you to bring me a business case. I know it's going to take you a bit longer, but I want you to investigate on the various alternatives that might allow us to tackle with this issue that we're facing right now. So the business manager will go back in his office and he will start working in elaborating on the business case. He will not do that all by himself. He will have guys from the business implementation group. This is how we call it. These are the guys within the organization, within the specific department, that at the end will be the ones to receive the solution and start using it. So he will start consulting with these guys and say, hey, guys, I'm doing an analysis here. I'm trying to identify alternative solutions to tackle our problem. Give me ideas. What do you believe that we could do? So he does a first step of uh, how to say, like a first iteration of workshops to collect requirements and needs from the internal people within the organization. He will use that information, or she, sorry, I'm trying to be gender balanced here. The information will be used in order to populate the business case. Once the business case is populated, once we have all the analysis and the comparison, we go back to the project owner and say, my dear boss, here are the alternatives that I have identified. Here's the comparison that I have done. And here is the one that I propose, resulting from the comparative analysis. So the project owner will see it and he can accept the solution. Let's say that the project owner is entitled to accept the solution, but he personally or she cannot fund the solution. What does that mean? He's going to come back and say, okay, my dear friend, now we'll have to do the project charter. The project charter will be drafted, and this is drafted by another person. I will not talk about it right now, and will not be submitted for approval to the project owner. The project owner will just check it, agree with it, and he will escalate it up. He will escalate it to the appropriate governance body, which is the authority entitled to approve a project of the specific budget. Is it clear so far? Any questions? Okay. Yes, Emily. And Martin.
You need to have many people in your organization to be able to define such a thing, because usually it's like the project owner usually would be the same as a business manager, and most probably the performing person as well. Because I would say that I would tend to say that in a CSDP mission setup, unless you're the maybe chief of staff or deputy head of mission, you wouldn't have so many layers below you to be able to really either from a hierarchical point of view, but also just from an operational point of view, if you want to delegate horizontally. um, um, I guess some roles could be combined, right?
Exactly my word. And what we mean here is, like, you will always have these roles over there, but you're gonna change hats. So this decision will be taken by me wearing the hat of the project owner. This decision will be taken by me wearing the hat of the business manager. You have to have them clearly defined as roles, irrespective if it is going to be the same person. Irrespective. Okay? Because when you go in the methodology, you will go and read the description of what the project owner does and what the business manager does. And you have to be aware. If you don't put the title, you will not know what to read from within the methodology. And you will not be aware of all the tasks that you have to undertake when you have that role. Martin.
Yeah, my question goes in the same direction. If I check with my workplace environment, I could even imagine that myself is double-headed, that I'm the business manager at the initial stage, and project owner, of course, is the director. Business implementation group, I can imagine to negotiate, let's say, with the head of units, and then after an approval to modify, to change to the project manager, and then implementing a project core team with specialists from the units. And so, is it legitimate?
It's legitimate.
Yeah.
It's legitimate, but what you need to understand first, you have to understand the principal roles. Then you have to go in the guide and see what each role is responsible of. And once you have the responsibilities, only then you can put the hat to guy X or lady Y. Okay? Because it's not just the name, it's also what comes with the name. The appropriate governance body approves the project charter. When the project charter gets approved, that means that the project is officially acknowledged and it has an approved budget.
Question?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Yeah.
Fortunately, having the camera, I have also the opportunity to raise questions and raise on my observation.
Okay, please.
I would like to inform everybody that so far, from what you described, this is exactly what we are doing in the military. And when I refer to the military, I refer to the national defense worldwide, or everywhere, not only in Greece, but everywhere. However, what we are missing in the military is the definition within the project as such. What does this mean? When the hierarchy is coming with top-down opportunity to discuss a project, they delegate this responsibility to somebody within the headquarters. Normally, this guy is the project manager, but this is not defined as a project manager. This is defined as an action officer doing the business. Then he is doing, as you described, delegate the responsibilities to other guys, as we described to all of these branches below this breakdown. Nevertheless, what we are missing so far is the proper and accurate responsibilities within the military, which unfortunately, without an agreed as such standardized process as it is the PM² or the PRINCE2, let's say, planning, these two, without this accrediting in the headquarters, the responsibility, unfortunately, even though shows that lies to those guys who are running the project, normally is missing worldwide because they are not a good connection with the project. And then many times we have a failure of the project. For me, the recommendation will be somehow that this standardized process that we are learning today and these days should be in one or the other way established and accredited within the headquarters in order everyone has that role and the responsibility precisely to get their own responsibility as much as he deserves within the project. Thanks a lot. Over.
Thank you. And I concur what you've said, because if you don't put in place an actual governance structure, then everybody does what comes first in their heads and you have mess. And to pick up now from where we've left, the appropriate governance body, the entity that is entitled to approve our project, gives a green light. So now we can start planning and delivering. Let's go back to our scenario. Who raised the request? It was the HR department. And they requested for an IT solution to replace the HR management software. Do they have the skills and knowledge, the competence to do that? No. These guys just handle personnel. So what they're going to do is they're going to address now the request to the IT department, the internal IT department within the organization, because they are the guys that know how to deal with computers. So the solution provider for this project will be the IT department. The IT department is not going to be the head of the IT department that is going to do all this stuff, huh? He's going or she's going to appoint somebody to be the project manager from there. So now we have the project manager for the first time. The project manager from the IT department should establish a very close collaboration with the business manager. Why? Because the business manager is the one who really knows what the needs are. He's the one who drafted the business case. He's the one who has talked already to the guys internally to the HR department and have said, oh, we heard here, we heard there. This one doesn't work. We want to have this one to be more efficient. So close collaboration, constant communication between the project manager and the business manager. So the project manager will lead now the planning phase, will develop all the planning artifacts, will also be supported by his team, if he has one. And it's not him with like 100 hats on top of his head, to deliver the planning artifacts. And then when transitioning to the executing phase, to start implementing what was approved within the approved artifacts. So this is a scenario. The business manager defines the need, further elaborates on the need by exchanging with the people within his unit, department. We call them the business implementation group. Once the need is well elaborated and gets accepted by the project owner, if it goes beyond this his approval authority, it can be escalated to the appropriate governance body to be approved. Once approved, then the solution provider can kick in and start delivering on the solution. The solution provider will appoint a project manager. The project manager will have a team to support. Now, there is another scenario here that we can further elaborate. The IT platform that the HR department uses has not been developed by these guys here. So they wouldn't know how to update it, huh? They will have to address the issue to a contractor. In that case, this solution provider, the internal solution provider, will also start talking with a similar external structure. So over here, you're going to have the contractor's solution provider. You're going to have the contractor project manager. After a tendering procedure. But, and this is extremely important, it's not this guy here talking to this guy, because they do not speak the same language. He talks with zeros and ones. He only uses paragraphs, text. Okay, guys? The guy who talks with a contractor, with the IT company, is the internal solution provider. They exchange and they communicate with the client side. So this is a structure when part or the totality of the project is performed by an external entity under contract. Carita, you're like this, so that means you have to ask something. You have to ask something.
I'm actually just pondering, because quite often you end up being, I was looking forward to this governance part, and I'm looking forward to also the one which is adjusted to admissions, is that how would it actually then work? Because sometimes you end up being the project manager or in this role in a project where you have zero understanding of the substance. I mean, you rely very heavily on the experts, you rely very heavily on the core team, that they know what they do. I mean, as a background, I work with people who are literally rocket scientists. So I will not take any part in the KPIs, the outcomes, whatever, but I still need to run the thing. Yeah. So how does this then adjust to that?
Okay, have you seen, okay, if you Google and try to find a job as a project manager and you identify people from the market, you will see in their CVs, you see in the CVs that they have worked in the IT field, then they have worked in the research field, then they have worked in the construction field. So you have many exceptional project managers that work as freelancers that are not highly related with the domain specific, with the specificities of the project. And why is that? You are the project manager. You have to drive the project management procedure. You don't have to know rocket science, huh? Because the project deals with rocket science. But you will have to establish the steps that these guys have to follow. And you're gonna call them, guys, have we done our risk management here? What is that? Okay, let me explain you the process, and then I will guide you through the steps to identify the risks together. You will be placing the frame, and they will be providing the risks. We will talk about that tomorrow. Or you're planning your project. Let me have a look now. Guys, we have to do our stakeholder identification. Did we do that? No, let's do it together. Come on, come in my room. So you have the rocket scientists. We need to identify our stakeholders relating to this super duper project. And one of the gurus there, I know a Nobel laureate. He would be able to help us. Okay, put him in the stakeholder register. You have to know the steps, and you have to know how to pose the correct questions. They will come up with the answers.
Yeah. But how will then actually work with this diagram we're now looking at? I mean, you will be the project manager, but I will not have a solution provider above me. They will be in another kind of chain.
Okay,
this is how I understand it.
You're talking about EU-funded projects.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we're talking about H2020 projects in particular.
Okay.
So this is another topic, totally different. I deliver this course, and we don't have to confuse everybody here. We can stay together at the end for like 15 minutes, and I will show you the tailoring of the governance structure for EU-funded projects.
Okay.
Okay, so we stay together after we finish off, and I will tell you how it's done, because your case is totally different.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Thanks.
Okay. Perfect. Any other questions here? Okay. Now we have some other roles here. You have the project steering committee. What is this? Okay, once you start entering into the actual planning phase, the project steering committee assumes a critical role. The project steering committee is comprised by the project owner, the solution provider, the business manager, and the project manager. These are the 4 roles that convene under the project steering committee hats. The guy that chairs the committee is a project owner. She is a chairperson. Can we go back to Elizabethan English where he was representing both sexes? I'm like he, she all the time. I have to adapt with the new reality. So the project owner is the one chairing the steering committee. The steering committee can be complemented with extra roles depending on the specificities of the project. So if part of the project is outsourced, you can see in the steering committee the contractor's project manager sitting there as well. If the project is highly related with an IT infrastructure, then you might have the CISO there, the guy responsible for security of information systems, and so on and so forth. So the steering committee has a principal structure comprising the project owner, the business manager, the solution provider, and the project manager, but can be expanded with other critical roles relating to the specificities of our project. Clear about the steering committee? Okay. The steering committee is responsible to resolve any escalated issues coming from these guys over here. So approve change requests, resolve risks, resolve conflicts, and so on and so forth. If in the case the steering committee does not have the authority to resolve something, or they do not have the capacity to resolve something, this will be further escalated to the appropriate governance body. Let's say the head of mission, or even FPI. Okay, guys? Last but not least, we have the project support team here at the end. The project support team is a set of complementary roles that can help us do our job. For example, if your organization has a project support office, like you have in H2020 projects, the leading organization usually establishes a project support office to coordinate all this stuff. Or in the project cells, the project units, you can be perceived as a project support office, the entity, the entire entity of the project cell. Because irrespective of the project, you can be there and support them and provide them with the artifacts, describe to them the steps that they have to follow, and so on and so forth. If the project is extremely complicated, you might have a project management assistant. So you have the principal project manager and a project manager assistant. He is under the project support team. If the project is like very sensitive quality-wise, you might have the quality assurance personnel. They will be within the project support team. Okay, guys? Clear? Okay. Now, going back, going back to our scenario. And this is the scenario we worked on with Eleanor. Eleanor, you have your visit, right? And now we will have to map the various roles. First of all, in your case, Eleanor, whom would you appoint as the solution provider? Who is the solution provider? Bringing together and delivering the solution.
If I have understood this correctly, that would be a member of our border management unit, the person who basically came up with the idea and who is responsible for how can I say, organizing the visit and the contacts to the host and so on.
What are you doing as a project unit? What are your jobs? I remember what you have placed in the project initiation request and in the chat.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, now looking at this, probably what I put in the whatever it's called, the PIR, it was a little bit wrong because I didn't have a full oversight over all these roles. And this is again also a little bit problematic because we are a very small mission.
Yes.
Basically, my role and the unit of our cell, honestly, I don't, we would then be, I would say, I don't actually know where we belong.
We will define that. First questions first.
Yeah.
Describe the steps that you do. What are you doing?
Me.
Yes, you as a project cell. To what extent are you engaged with the project?
We have the role of advising the person who is in charge of the project technical content on managing the project.
So you only provide advisory services?
Yes.
To the local.
We don't deal with the technical content at all.
Okay. Who is the one coordinating the ministries in terms of, let's say, identifying the learning outcomes and drafting the training curriculum?
That is the person that I thought I would put on the position.
Is it from you or is it from the ministries?
No, it's from us. We do. So basically my problem honestly here is that I don't know, the solution provider and the project manager is kind of the same person, or this is where I get confused.
No worries. We will dissolve this confusion. The solution provider is the body that is responsible for delivering the solution. The project manager is the poor guy that runs about and trying to deliver the solution. So from what I understand here, most probably you are the project manager. You are the one running, or you have other people under you.
Yeah, it's just that, and this is a little bit confusing, according to our internal SOPs, the project manager is always a technical person. It's not us. But maybe we need to change that.
Okay, so here's the example. The project unit, or the project cell as you call it, assumes the role of the solution provider, because you have to coordinate the forces that will deliver the solution. On the other hand, you appoint a project manager from the department that you deem as appropriate internally within your mission.
Mm.
And that person is going to be the project manager. Now, let's go on the other side, the project owner. The project owner is the entity that will make use of the services. In our case, these are the Libyan authorities, correct? Who are the entities profiting from the project? Eleanor.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. It's just a little bit.
We will work on it. They are the Libyan authorities. So if you have a leading ministry between the three, you have Interior, you have Foreign Affairs, and you have the Ministry of Transport. Which one is the leading ministry?
Ministry of Interior.
Okay,
Usually.
so the project owner here, in our case, in our scenario, is going to be the Ministry of Interior. And then he will provide the services to the other ministries as well. The Ministry of Interior will have to provide you with an expert that will put on the hat of the business manager, correct?
This is not how it works at all. Unfortunately,
You said earlier that you talk with their side with an expert that they appoint. You've said that. Who is your counterlocutor? With whom are you talking from the ministries?
that I would need to ask the project manager, because I don't deal with the technical parts at all. But I mean, to be honest, and maybe I can see this is maybe something we are lacking, because we haven't had this type of a project owner.
For example, your project manager is not coming up from everything in his head. Huh? He has to know, he has to talk with somebody on the other side, on the side of the ministries. So that person is the expert from the ministry side that communicates the business needs. Guys, we're lacking skills and competences in tracking and analyzing border documentation or customs documentation. We need to be trained. So he collects the business requirements from that guy. It's not the guy in your unit that's like, sipping a coffee and saying, I know what they need. No, he has talked to somebody. So that somebody actually exists. And it is from some of the ministries, either the Interior or the Foreign Affairs or the Ministry of Transport, one of the three. So the business manager exists and you have to put him there. Now, let's go one step lower. That guy in the ministries is not doing all the work for himself or herself. They're doing it for a lot of people, the people that actually work in the borderline. And all these people are going to be the business implementation group, because they are going to be the recipients of the knowledge. They're going to be the recipients of the solution. You have to identify them. Only if you identify them, you will be in a position to call them in and ask for their opinion and do your workshops. You have to know them. If you don't know them, you increase the risk of failure of the project. Now let's go on the other side. And here I will agree with you. Project core team, in your case, might be the project manager and running and doing all the shit by himself. Yes, I agree with you, because the project is small and your cell is small. I agree. But for more complex projects, the project manager might be having extra people support him. Okay, Eleanor? Right. So to wrap it up, project cell and the mission in general, you provide the solution for the local community. Eleanor, you're leading the project cell. You're not doing the stuff by yourself. You will appoint somebody to be the project manager. That somebody can either be internal from your cell or external from a specific unit within the mission. that specific person will have to establish a line of communication with an appropriate entity from the Libyan authorities that will serve as the business manager. He will have, in our eyes, he will have the hat of the business manager. And what does that mean? That means that through the interaction with that specific person, your project manager will be eliciting requirements. Guys, you have to tell me what it is that you need in order for me to give you proper advice. That business manager, while exchanging with the project manager, is in constant communication with their business, with their project owner, which is director of whatever in the Ministry of Interior. Okay. If you put these roles, yes, Archie, I will give the floor. If you put these roles in place, it's only then will you be available to write next to their names their responsibilities, what they are responsible for. Archie, the floor is yours.
Yeah, no, thank you. Just maybe some insights from our project management unit in Ukraine. How you explain this with the, let's say, counterparts being the business managers and the project owners, I think in theory it's fine, but when we actually implement a project, I mean, they are not involved in any kind of steering committee or anything like that, and kind of actually the way the funding works and you know the structures we have to kind of keep them actually at a bit of an arm's length. So in a way, in theory, I can see the point, but in practice, it's also not maybe always like this. And then there are cases, at least in our mission, I don't know how it is in other missions, where you know, senior management will come up with a nice idea, and sometimes it's not sure if it's been discussed with anybody or not. You know, so it's also these kind of realities we face where it's a project is coming where maybe the business manager would then be like our head of mission or head of operations or somebody who decides that how we'll do this and you know we do it. So it's like I think we can put the like counterparts here in these boxes, but when we are actually implementing the projects, I mean there's like, well, depending on the project, but I mean they're not really involved, they are more just benefiting from it. Okay. But just a comment from my side.
You remember the slide shown by Nico, two guys pulling a chariot with square wheels, and you're coming back with a round wheel and saying, guys, come and make your life easier. No, we're cool. We know how to use this one. We don't need anything else. I agree, reality is reality, but you have to do something extra. Do you keep lessons learned from all your past projects? Do you keep all your documentation for previous projects? Do you have KPIs in place and see the effectiveness of the previous projects? If you have them, and then you can judge and see, by implementing solution A, approach A, it took me that long. When doing it through the approach B, it took me that long, or I spent that much money, or I had less risks, or I had less change requests. So we will discuss about that on Friday. Another element that is very important is at the end of the project, call your team in, do the project and review meeting, and put down the lessons learned. How many change requests did you receive, and why did you receive them? You received them because you took the decision internally, you never consulted with the local authorities, and then when the local authorities started receiving the solution, they were like, what is this? I don't know, I don't want this one, this is not compatible with what I have, I want to be like this. And then you're like, oh shit, I spent such amount of money and now they cannot use it, I have to do something. Oh, have to file a change request and I have to request additional funding from FPI. Then FPI comes and says, you know something, I cannot give it to you because it appears that you only consumed 70% of your budget. But this budget relates to the other project. This project is doing well. I don't care. So you see, the situation gets messy when you do not consult properly with all your stakeholders. So yes, I know reality, but you should also be aware of the proper approach to follow, and put a logs down and saying on day X I proposed that one, it was not approved, we did this one, and then you can judge by the result. Yes, Roger, please.
Oh yeah, just maybe to drive home or to kind of, let's say, clarify. I mean, of course, the stakeholder consulting is done and we work in close cooperation. But if you look at this slide, like directing layer, managing layer, that's what I kind of have an issue with, because obviously the local counterpart is not directing us or managing the project as such. But of course they are consulted. So I think maybe I'm just getting too kind of caught up on the actual terminology here instead of.
That's why I did not talk about this. This is the reason I did not talk about this, because I know that it would bring more confusion to you. This is totally applicable on the first scenario that I discussed, but in your case, you don't have to name the layers, because you will then be conveying misleading messages to the local authorities. Okay, guys?
One more tiny question.
Yes?
Can you go back
Yes?
to this wonderful slide?
It gets worse, believe me.
I'm just trying to grab this. First of all, I completely agree with everything that Artsi says. There is a certain reality in the missions. Yes, it happens also with us that requests can come from all kinds of sides of the mission, but just trying to grab this. And we are also, in my mission, we are one of the smallest existing missions. And I'm trying to figure out what are somehow the minimum roles where we really do need to have different people, also in order to have some kind of checks and balances. You went maybe through this, but as I said, to be completely honest, in our current structure, somehow the project core team, the project manager and the solution provider is often only one person, which is not good. So I'm sorry, could you still go into this, the minimum when we only have a handful of people?
Reality check. Yes, in extremely small projects, these three can be the same. Extremely small projects like yours. We're talking about a very small project. Okay. On the other side, it's very rare that these two guys are the same. You usually have a different project owner, and the business manager and the business implementation group are the same. Okay? Because the project owner is almost always a higher level authority. It's the authority expressing the need. And since she is a high level authority, you know, high level executives are not doing the job themselves. They always assign other guys to do it. So we'll always find somebody to delegate and tell them, no, you do that. So minimum on this side, you're going to have the project owner, and these two roles might be together. In your case, if you at the mission level never convene with the local authorities, if that is the case, which I believe is very rare, then you don't need the project steering committee. But I consider these extremely rare, because normally you should establish communications with them, and you should both participate under the project steering committee path. So it's going to be the representative from the mission, the representative of the authorities that will convene, they will be together, and they will discuss and they will exchange. Correct, Eleanor? Yes.
Yes, of course, we actually interact a lot with our counterparts, but I would say officially we wouldn't have a steering committee per every project. What we have instead is, for example, the border management working group, where the Libyans and also international counterparts, mainly from the EU family, come together, where we share, where the Libyans share information on their needs, and where we have a dialogue on what we can do. And also it's at the same time a coordination forum. Maybe the Netherlands will say that, hey, we are ready to provide this training element, so you guys can do that. I don't know if you understand. So we don't have it per project, but it's a little bit broader.
Okay. In that case, this is just a workshop that you do for exchange of information and requirements, and it's not a steering committee, because the steering committee has authority over the project. And the way you describe it, these guys have no authority. They just exchange ideas and they just communicate requests, correct?
Yes, basically the Libyans tell what they want, they prioritize their needs, and we try to see what we can do.
in that case, you should not establish a steering committee between the mission and the local authorities. Given following your structure, the steering committee is not authorized to take any decisions relating to the project. All decisions are taken internally at the mission level, following the request from the local authorities. Correct?
Yeah, you make it sound quite bad right now, but whatever. I would just say that we don't have this per project, but also please remember that our projects are very small. It's often only one training with a budget of 20,000 euros. So far, this is the way we have worked.
But this is the exception. I would not like for everybody to think that the course here is only for projects of that magnitude.
Yeah.
And the methodology is only for courses of that magnitude. Keep in mind that we have many different types of projects, more complicated and so on and so forth. In your case, Eleanor, we do an extensive tailoring. In other projects, if we would do such an extensive tailoring, it would have been very risky for them because we would be leaving elements outside. Okay?
May I say something, Elias?
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to give another perspective from another EU project. Is a joint investigation team in Niger. Is a more than 11 million euros project. And I know the project quite well. I've been there also. I've seen how they work on a daily basis. And for me, it's a bit confusing when I see project owner, but probably it's because of me, because for me, owner, I associate that to beneficiary, but here you use this terminology, owner, okay? But in this project, as I mentioned, the joint investigation team, these roles here in this chart are very much set, right? The project owner, the beneficiary, is the Niger authorities. And our colleagues, those who are running the project from Spain and France, they are working very closely with them, and they are discussing all the activities that are, it's an operational project that are going to be implemented. There is also a training part, but mostly it's operational. So first of all, they need the agreement and the cooperation coming from the Niger authorities. But there is a very clear project owner or a person who is the head of the Aliens and Borders Department. That's actually they're the project owner. And then what I know from the project, there is a steering committee where all of them sit together 1 or 2 times per year. They call it as a pilotage, the comité de pilotage pilot. And previous to that meeting, there is also a project steering committee reunion, as I said, 1 or 2 times per year. So in that project, which is a big one, with a very big budget, I see most of these layers very clearly, rather than in a small project, as you mentioned before, which is a study visit, which is a project itself, but it's a very small one, and it's more difficult to tell who is who there. But in this big project, as I mentioned, I see that very clearly.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree. Thank you very much. Now, if you do not have any more questions, I would like to jump from the roles that we've discussed here to the responsibilities, which is something totally different. Each role will have a set of responsibilities. So the PM² methodology describes 5 different forms of responsibilities. And they are contained under the acronym of RASCI. I don't know if you're aware of it. It's also used in other methodologies as well. But it is RASCI, they're missing 1 role. So let's have a look at the RASCI. We always start with the A. The A is the accountable role. Accountable means that if something goes wrong, if the it hits the fan, it's the guy that takes the blame. It is the guy that has the,
can you zoom in a little bit?
of course. Is my screen a bit bigger today than yesterday? Or is it the same for you? No? Jasmine, what is it?
Same, I can't see. So I will, yes, please. This is much better. Thanks.
Sorry, I was struggling with this also yesterday until I found out that right on the top of your screen, there is a view options just below your camera. And you can click there, put it to 100%, 150, even 200. So you can yourself make it bigger. I finally realized this.
You can toggle the view so you can have the shared screen in the main screen, and on top, instead of having all the heads, have only the guy who speaks. It's done automatically. You just have to press on the 6 dots on the upper right corner of your computer, of the Zoom platform. Thank you, Edmund. So let's have a look now at the responsibilities. The first responsibility is accountable. This is the ultimate answerable role. This is the role that has the authority to say yes and no. You can only have one role accountable per task. Okay? It's like putting 2 roosters in the same, how do you call it? I don't know. If you put them together, they will just fighting. There is always only one accountable. It's like Highlander. Now, the accountable guys are usually the high-level executives. And in many cases, they delegate responsibility. So they choose a guy to be responsible. This responsible guy will do the hands-on work, will deliver. Okay? Okay. The responsible role can also be supported by other roles. So these other roles will have the supporting role, support towards the responsible role. So you will see afterwards, we will create a matrix and everybody will know who is responsible to whom, who is supporting whom. Now, coming back to the responsible role, does he or she know everything? No. In some cases, they will have to go to somebody else and be consulted. That somebody else will have the consult responsibility. And finally, I am responsible. I am building something to deliver it in the eyes of the accountable role. Once I'm done, I might have to inform somebody. You know, after your task, there is another task. Inform the other guy to know that you're finishing off and he should pick up. Let's have a look here through an example. We have the task to build the business case. The role who is accountable is a project owner. He is the guy, she is feeling the pain. I want to come up with a solution, come up and propose to me some alternatives. Has the accountability. But is he or she going to do it by herself? No. Going to delegate to the business manager, the guy who's going to put on the hat of the business manager to do the business case. So that guy will assume the responsibility to deliver, to build. Okay. The business manager is responsible. In the exceptional case where the solution is provided internally within the organization, the business manager can be supported by these 2 roles Let's go back to our IT example. We want to replace our IT platform. He will go to the IT department and say, guys, I'm drafting the business case and I'm collecting the requirements. But when it comes to the IT field, I'm missing some stuff. I cannot figure it out. I don't know. You are the experts. You remember the video we saw yesterday? You are the experts, guys. So these guys will go and sit next and will support him in drafting the business case. When the business manager drafts the business case, he goes down to his unit, to the other guys working in the unit or department, and asks, guys, you are the business implementation group, you are the user representatives. Come on, give me your feedback. What do you think that is missing? So collects information, sits together with the IT experts, and tries to transform that information into a solid argumentation within the business case. So now everybody within this single line knows what has to do when it comes to the business case. I know I am the business manager. I have to report to the accountable project owner. I am just a guy working in the unit. I'm a user representative. What I know is that I have to inform the business manager, we need this one, we need that one, you have to put this functionality there, and so on and so forth. And the solution provider and the project manager, if available, they can sit next to the business manager and support him in transforming the technical requests into proper communication that he or she will be able to communicate to the project owner. Eleanor is shocked, I can tell. Okay, guys, question. What you've seen in one line, you can see it here with everything. In the page 111 of the PM² guide, we have the detailed RASCI table, where for each step that we have a detailed description of the responsibilities. So for the project handbook, the project owner is accountable, and the guy who delivers it is the project manager. For the outsourcing plan, when it comes down to money, no, guys, you can't take the decision yourself. From the outsourcing plan, it will have to be approved by the appropriate governance body. Nevertheless, the project manager will draft the damn thing and will bring us to approve it. So over there, you have detailed structure that links together tasks, roles, and responsibilities. Do you have to follow it as it is? No, you can do some changes in there to adapt it to the specificities of your organization, to the specificities of your project. It's up to you. Okay? When you do not have proper governance, conflicts may arise. Conflicts are both good and bad. I like to quote Einstein here. Great ideas often receive violent opposition from mediocre minds. This is what we usually say for the heads of mission. No, I know better. He doesn't know as much as I don't know. Well, it's not always the case, huh? Maybe sometimes they know more and they're filtering out and they're not communicating their reasoning to us. And that is why we judge. Another thing, conflict is not always negative. It's a good thing to have a conflict with your head of mission. It's a very good thing, as long as you're both open-minded, huh? Because through this conflict, solutions may arise. I want to smile from the ladies now. You can blame me later. We have two different types of conflicts. We have apparent conflicts and we have hidden conflicts. Which one is a tricky one? Of course, the hidden conflicts. Oh my goodness, I don't want to elaborate on this topic. But let me share with you some tips and tricks. The ideal way to identify hidden conflicts is to establish proper key performance indicators. For example, frequency of reported issues. If you see these KPIs value increasing and increasing and increasing, at some point you're going to have a burst. Number of escalated issues. My guys are no longer able to resolve the issues internally. They escalate them all up to me. The time it takes to resolve an issue. Issues that return after being resolved. Employee retention, employee satisfaction, and so on and so forth. So you can all establish a set of indicators that will serve as triggers and notify you that, you know, there is a conflict coming up. I see change requests arising and arising and arising. That means that the client is not satisfied with what we deliver. Let's be a bit proactive here and try to identify something. In any case, either when you identify a hidden conflict or you have an apparent conflict, you have to approach it in a structured way. First of all, you will have to distinguish between what you want and what you actually need. You should always negotiate on your needs and not on your wants, because usually the wants are an excessive superset. For example, I want more input into the scheduling process. I want to know what's happening. No, this is what you want. In reality, what you need is, let's say, to work less than 30 hours a day. Let's go back to the want side. Thus, I want to have a more regular schedule update. In reality, what you need is a more notice for schedule changes. You don't want to receive an updated schedule every day. You just want to have an early warning when a change is coming back, so you can be proactive and not responsive and work your ass off to deliver. So this is the difference between the wants and the needs. When it comes to the other side, you have to do the same thing for them. What is it that they need? They want. What is it more important for them? What is it less important for them? When it comes to negotiations, I don't know if you have heard the expression of the BATNA, the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. It's the threshold that the other guy puts and says, if we don't reach an agreement above my BATNA, I'll go away and I stick to my BATNA. So you have to know in advance what is most important to them and what is less important to them. If you know, then you can adjust your negotiation approach. For that, proposals to make. The one on the right, kiss, bow, or shake hands. It's highly recommended for you international people that work in international environments and you have to deal with people of different cultures. It describes clearly, this one is for Europe, there is another one for the entire globe. So you will see what this means. Okay, it describes the behavioral approach of its culture and how you should interact with them in a project environment, in the corporate environment. On the other hand, the book on the left, it's a very small A5 size. It has been written by Chris Voss. I don't know if you know him. He has been working in FBI. So he was leading negotiations in all the hostage cases, terrorist attacks. And he has transformed this approach into a negotiation methodology that is applicable to everything. And you will learn a lot on how to approach negotiations, how to present your arguments, how to interpret the body language during the negotiations, and so on and so forth. So I highly recommend these two books to complement your negotiation skills. And next to this guy knows pretty well this guy, Joe Navarro, also working for the FBI, and he was a profiler. You know, when you have them in the classroom and you have the investigation, the interrogation, there is usually somebody outside who just listens and sees. And in many cases, they see without listening and they keep notes. Why they do that? Because they just want to read the body language. And they put a tick on the time frame when they notice something strange in the body language, and only then they open the audio to make sure if the verbal communication corresponds to the nonverbal communication, and if they're saying a lie or if they're communicating a truth. So I highly recommend this book as well to help you build your body language skills and be in a position to better interpret nonverbal communications by your counterlocutors. You will receive this presentation in e-learning format in PDF. It's going to be uploaded on Ilias, so you will have all this. Okay, guys? I don't know the guys. I don't take any shares from the sales. I don't have shares in Amazon. So it's just books that I like. I have read them and I highly recommend them. Okay, guys? So now we have another 30 minutes until 11 when we have our break. At this point, I will pass the floor to Andreas. And Andreas will discuss and will start presenting to you an introduction about the planning phase that we are going to talk after our break and throughout the day today. So Andreas, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Elias, and thank you again for giving me the opportunity to contribute some here to this cause. Now, the planning